Okay.
All right, I got it. That we're in recording. And I'll call tonight's meeting to order and a roll call, please.
I'll do them in the order I see them on the screen. Paulson.
Here.
Groskopf.
Here.
Sipsma.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
And I saw Bruce earlier.
Here.
Bruce, there you go. And Tom Wilson and I are both, and Mark Opitz are both present.
Great. Looks like we have some minutes to approve. I'm trying to scroll that screen from the March 24th, 2021 minutes to approve. So
I will move to approve the minutes of March 24th.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second to approve the March 24th, 2021 minutes. Any discussion on those minutes? Any corrections, anything of any nature? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And those minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is the single item that we have tonight. It is a potential general implementation plan amendment to allow natural cemetery and funeral home. So, do we have someone here that's presenting to us tonight? Oh, there is someone I see, but we don't know what that person's name is.
Madeline. From Wisconsin Foundation.
Hi, Madeline.
And perhaps.
And so, does Mark or Tom want to talk about this at all before we turn to Madeline?
I'll briefly mention that we've decided that this requires a GIP amendment because a cemetery, even though this was identified as a civic use in this area, it had specific uses that didn't include cemetery or funeral home as a use. And obviously a funeral home isn't strictly a civic use, that it's a business that oftentimes runs a funeral home. So we decided that this required a GIP amendment. So this is before you tonight to get your feedback. There will have to be a public hearing on the GIP amendment, which will be scheduled for September 14th before the City Plan Commission.
And Mark, can you just give us the process, or Mark or Tom, give us the process of is this a consultation tonight?
Well, the Westport uses the term consultation. As far as I'm concerned, if you had any feedback tonight on this could be your only meeting focusing on it. If you wish to do it in a two-step process, that's up to you. But I think this is a pretty straightforward application, and I wrote the hearing or the meeting agenda specifically to give you the flexibility to determine how you wanted to proceed with it at this meeting.
Okay, great. And then if we took action on it, what would be the next thing that would happen?
There will have to be a public hearing before the Plan Commission, the City Plan Commission, on the GIP amendment, which then has to also be approved by the council.
So this is being referred to the Joint Zoning Committee because of the work that you've done in this planning area for the community of Bishops Bay. This is in the city. This is an area that encompasses acreage that was proposed in the master development plan as either a church or a school or something like that. And that's why from the master development plan, it appears that for a cemetery and funeral home, it may be similar use to that, but it does require a GIP. So this is really within the realm of the city. It's not like it's outside the town, in the town where there's extraterritorial zoning. So this is somewhat you're an advisory body, let's put it that way, that you're giving somewhat of a recommendation, if you wish to do that, to the City Plan Commission and the City Council. And you could do that tonight if you wanted to, or you could wait till the public hearing and get those comments, and hopefully the Plan Commission would then refer it back to you. But you could do everything tonight if you wished. So that's kind of the setup for this. Um,
Thank you,
what's
Tom.
being proposed is this natural cemetery. And, you know, there's some questions, of course. When Mark gets to the plan and we'll have a proposal, I kind of asked something about setting the funeral home back further off the site because they've got it closer to the roadway than the neighboring homes, which are in the town of Westport. The homes that are along Onken Road here are in the town, and this is just to the east of those homes. To give the house that's there, you can see it from the plan that Mark went flying by. A little bit of, you know, some kind of break, or there you go. If you go down a little bit more, Mark, and you get to the bottom, see there's a home right by what is the pet cemetery. So if you're a Stephen King novel reader, you probably are scared to death right now. There's, you know, we have water and sewer issues here with a building, because we had that with the church, and everybody remembers when Cross Lutheran Church first proposed here, they couldn't get water and sewer. And you know, they even talked about a detachment, and the city plan commission, and frankly the joint zoning committee all said that there's no reason to do a detachment. This is what we planned on, but if you can't get water and sewer, you're not going forward with your development. So that's why they moved over into the town where they got water and sewer. I don't know what the timing is on building the whole proposal here, or the funeral home, but certainly that's an issue that's out there that's got to be addressed. And then we'd also have to address road improvement issues here on Onken Road, access and all those things. You know, the building of a trail that's proposed along Onken Road, it would need to be built here. These are all issues that we need to look to down the line. They could be part of an SIP at a later date. So you would want to list some of these things if you decided to go forward and recommend, yeah, this use is fine, but we got to work on these issues. I think those would be the issues that you'd want to know about, you know, building timing, set this back from those houses, provide a buffer, water sewer issues, road improvement issues. So that's kind of where you are without hearing anything at all from Wisconsin Foundation here, who's proposing this. I have already presented that to Terrence Wall to tell him that those were issues there, and they said, we understand that there's issues we need to address. We just want to know if the idea of this use is something that would be acceptable on this place, which is, as you recall, it was a quarry, and it's been filled in. And so it really doesn't lend itself to, you know, foundations for houses. It's really more of a, I guess, slab on concrete construction without a basement, that type of thing. It probably works really well for a natural cemetery, because who knows what's under this. Right now, there's a big pile of material that the developer has been moving around on this site. So that's kind of my thoughts in a nutshell. I wanted to get that out there because it looked like you could use someplace to start here for a conversation. And knowing that this is not in the extraterritorial zoning area where you have authority, this is a city plan commission and staff sending it to this body to see what you think, because you've spent so many years working on planning this area. How's that, Mark?
Well, I was planning to go into some detail. I was just going to give the applicant a chance to introduce the project. So
Sorry.
That's why I was being so brief earlier, but I appreciate the context. You know, and Mr. Chair, again, maybe you would like to have the applicant proceed with their presentation.
Sure, I will in just a moment. Mark, has the city plan commission or
No.
or city staff taken any position on this other than saying that there needs to be an amendment to the GIP?
No,
Okay.
no, we have not. You're the first one seeing this. We simply have given them the guidance that this is the process they need to follow, and I'm a big believer in our collaborative planning that as you all are, since you're serving on this body. And so we thought we'd start with you folks to have this discussion amongst ourselves, and then obviously we'll have the process as Tom and I have outlined moving forward.
Okay.
And Ken,
All right.
Ken, the
What?
representative here is Madeline. Madeline, is that right? Wall.
Yeah.
And she must be related to someone who else has the name Wall, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
All right, well then, let's turn to Madeline Wall, and we're happy to hear from you, Madeline, and I guess we're the first ones to hear from you on this proposal. And I have the first question I have for you is, what is Wisconsin Foundation?
Yeah, so it's actually a charity, it's a nonprofit. So Terrence is in charge of it, and they've done some donations to like the American Family Children's Hospital, kind of just, it's basically just a charity donating to causes around like Madison and the surrounding areas. So yeah, and we have this 20-acre parcel on Onken Road.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us what the plan is here.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the Wisconsin Foundation has 20 acres on Onken Road. And as you heard before, this land had been quarried and kind of loosely filled, so it's not really a good site for houses. And we had kind of thought maybe a school could go here, but they decided not to. And so we were looking at, what would be a good use for this land, and we decided that a cemetery could go here. And if you look at a lot of the cemeteries around Madison, they're actually filling up pretty fast. There's not a lot of spaces left, so there is a need for cemeteries. And if you kind of look into the burial process, it's actually really bad for the environment. So every year, about 4.3 million gallons of embalming fluid, which is basically just formaldehyde, is going directly into the ground. Like 77,000 trees are going directly into the ground, 1.6 tons of concrete. And that's every single year in the United States. So kind of the typical burial process is really bad for the environment. And so we looked at, is there a more environmentally friendly option? And there's a Green Burial Council, and we've been following their guidelines for what's called a natural burial cemetery or natural burial ground. So when you drive by a typical cemetery, you probably see like these huge concrete vaults, all these above ground concrete and headstones, and you will not see any of that in a natural burial ground. So there's actually no concrete allowed. All the headstones will be flat to the ground, so you won't see any headstones. And there'll be trees and plants everywhere. So it'll almost feel a little bit more like a private park and less like kind of a typical cemetery. So it's a lot more natural. It's better for the environment. And so that's why we decided to propose a natural burial ground. And then we also have a funeral home, which we could do, secondary. Our kind of primary focus right now is on the natural burial ground, because we could get started on that pretty easily. So yeah, that's our proposal.
Okay. Well, let's have the committee members ask you some questions if they have some. And I've probably got a couple, but let's have people ask away, or staff that's here too.
I've got one to start, and that is that you said that you are following the guidelines. Is there any Wisconsin laws or rules or regulations on a cemetery like this? And and are you planning to? I know you're planning to do it, but can you prove that you'll meet that to our group?
Yeah, so there's actually only one other cemetery like this in the state of Wisconsin, and there's only 30 in the entire country. So it has been done in Wisconsin, so it can be done. And in order to actually be a true natural burial ground, you have to be certified by the Green Burial Council. So the last 2 pages of our proposal have outlined the guidelines directly from the Green Burial Council website. And so in order to actually be a natural burial ground, we would meet all those requirements, and then we would have to apply to be certified by them.
I see.
Other comments?
Is this is this considered a reasonably efficient way to do things money-wise for folks if they choose this as an option to a traditional burial?
Yeah, actually you don't have to pay for a casket if you don't want. You can actually just have your family take you out there and bury you. You're not allowed to use embalming fluid. You're not allowed to have any metal or wood. So most people literally just are wrapped in a shroud and their family buries them. So it's actually one of the most kind of financially easy ways to get buried, because you don't have to pay for all these services if you don't want to. You can just have your family do it.
I guess I thought that there were laws about about those things, that there were rules and laws that had to be followed, which included everything but this, but I guess I'm wrong. I didn't realize that you could do what you wanted. Is
Mhm.
that because, I mean, obviously you can't bury your family member in the backyard, but because you're able to meet these requirements, you're saying it's that you can essentially do that. It's just that it has to be in this location. Is that right?
So actually in the state of Wisconsin, you can bury someone on private property. I believe you have to register with whatever the deeds offices. You have to register that you've buried someone on that specific area. But you actually could, if you wanted to bury someone on your farm, you could do that, or on your private property. That's allowed under Wisconsin state law. Now every state is a little bit different, but you can do it in Wisconsin.
Fascinating. Okay. I didn't know that. Tom, is that your understanding? Has that ever come up before?
I can say that I've never had to research that issue.
Okay, good.
But I think that she's right. I did have to look at it many years ago, something similar to that, because I represented the village of Belleville when we got lucky enough to take over a private cemetery that was given up. And, there weren't a whole lot of lots, but there were registrations required and things like that. So I'm sure Madeline's got that right, but that's something that we could research too, if you need it to be done.
Mhm. And there's actually, like I mentioned, only one of these in the state of Wisconsin, and it's in Verona. And that's how they actually got started, was the landowner. I believe they had a farm, or they had a lot of land, and she just wanted to be buried on her own property. And so then they thought, well, if she wants this, I'm sure there are other people that would want this too. And so they kind of turned it into, I think it's called natural sanctuary, or natural, path sanctuary, and it's out in Verona.
Okay. Well, I'm not so much opposed to it as I am curious, I guess, because it's so unusual. It seems so opposite in the direction that everybody has always gone. So I just wanted to ask some questions about it. I'm sure other people have other things that are on their mind, but I'll stand by for a second here if anybody else has something.
I do have a question. This graphic that we're looking at shows pet cemetery in addition to the natural cemetery and then veterans cemetery. Can you please explain everything that's going on in this graphic?
Yeah, so you'll see there's kind of a gray area marked as funeral home and a green area marked as the green cemetery. So under Wisconsin law, the funeral home and the cemetery have to be owned separately. And so we kind of tried to just make it a very simple division of the land between the funeral home and the cemetery. But there will be an area for you to bury your pets. We have a little veterans area for veterans to be buried. And that'll follow the same rules as the rest of the natural burial ground.
So it's just a separation that you're showing on the graphic.
Yeah.
And then if you could show me there's actually two homes, correct? Right next to this. There's one
Three.
here and then one right next to that one.
There's three, I think.
There's three.
Mhm.
Three, okay. Oh, okay.
Do you see that now on the screen, the map?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for that clarification.
I think I have a better,
Yeah, I have the DCI map open on my computer too, Mark. I was looking it up. Just a process question then for the applicant or staff. for, at least for the city council and the
Oh.
plan commission, well, that's zooming in. Maybe something like this aerial or how it fits within the site plan of Bishop's Bay. So people know the context of where it was. Because at first I thought it was a little closer to that preschool, but it turns out it's more further west towards the towards Q. So just in the application or mark in the staff comments
Yeah.
to help people.
No, it's a good
understand
idea. I should have.
where
done
the
that.
context is for Bishop's Bay, because
Good idea. Thank you.
I'd like to
Where-
see actually the Bishop's Bay site plan so I can remember what's the uses near it, because the same concern Tom had about those 3 houses. Sorry to jump in there.
No, and that's,
All
I'm
right.
sorry that I didn't include that. I normally would do that. I he's
So right-
this together Friday, so
Right now is the arrow on the site?
yes.
Okay, all right. Just my comment on this is I have no objection to what it is that is intended to be done. It all seems like a good idea to me from many environmental and cost savings and so forth. I mean, I'm sure like funeral directors probably won't like it, but or casket industries or whatever, but it all seems good. But here's my thing, and this probably isn't our forte, but here's my comments. This is going to be, I think, is this parcel going to be surrounded by residences eventually?
That's the plan.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
the plan.
And I should have put in there not just the air photo, but also the master plan.
Master plan, yes, please.
My
Yeah.
apologies for not including
That's
that.
right. That's right. And so my question is, some people may not want to live next to a cemetery. And some people may not want to live next to a natural cemetery. And I'm not here to say, to try to advocate for people who wouldn't want to. My thing is that it would seem, and I know there's going to be a public hearing and we'll move on, would be that I think it would be important to look at this in terms of the master plan, what's going to be there, and get a good, hopefully get some good feedback. The thing about this right now is that if it's approved now, then it's going to fill in around it, as opposed to if it was filled in around, then you would have people that, would may have some comments about it, or possible aversions to it, or possible religious, I'm just speculating, religious objections or something or other. And that's way beyond, I think, the scope of what I see myself as a member of this committee doing. But I would encourage that as it goes up to public hearing and to the city, that those things be looked at along with any other questions or issues. I mean, I would, it sounds like from what Ms. Wall is saying, that this would meet all state and whatever other laws are necessary here, and that's great, but of course I would want it to do that.
I'm particularly concerned about our 3 Westport residents that may have this thrust upon them. The other folks, if they fill in, I guess, would be moving there by choice, right? But these 3 are stuck. So I'd be very interested to hear what they think.
And is the kind of remainder parcel just west, that's where those 3 houses were carved out of, that's Ziegler, right? That's not Bishop's Bay? I think.
Yes. Yeah, that little parcel down there, it was created with the idea that I think Terrence has an option on that
Okay.
for development of the community of Bishop's Bay.
Is that part of the Bishop's Bay master plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What,
Except
and,
Sorry.
so, I'm sorry, Cindy, I was just going to quickly ask, and then to the I guess it's the east of there, that's destined to be split up and be all homes, right? Just some kind of one of the
Yeah,
phases. Development.
residential development of some type, yes.
Okay.
All
the
in the
south-
city, right? That's all in the city.
The city line is somewhere over there. I'm not exactly sure, Kurt, where it is, but it's,
I could see the city line. Yeah, it's in here somewhere, but it's close to the property in question. Isn't it?
yeah,
Or maybe it's this line here.
I think you got it, that
It's-
line right there,
Yeah.
because
there's
that's
a-
kind of the top of the
yeah.
hill.
Right. And then to the south, we should have to disclose that this is a Paulson Investments. But
No
it's a
relation,
different
spelled
spelling. It's a
differently.
different spelling, yes.
No
Just-
relation.
Yeah, and there's also options on that property, I believe, I think. Again, part of the larger overall master development plan for the site.
And so I think that will be one of the issues in the city is the funeral home will probably need to be on water and sewer. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Oh, God, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So then it'll have to be in the city, so, yeah. Well, I don't know if you were gonna do a natural cemetery, maybe they just set up a I don't know, pit latrine or something, or more, anyway. No, it's been done. It's been done, right? You can-
You would have to require a sewer after you naturally bury people all around.
If I recall correctly, there might have been some comment about de-annexing back to Westport or something like that, and I have no interest whatsoever in going through that again. We have been through that. We have said we are going to defer to the city on that. That's where it is. That's where it belongs. That's where it's going to stay. So whatever the issues are with water and sewer, they will not be, at least by my vote tonight, or if I had to vote tonight, would not be resolved by a de-annexation. I have no way of stopping anyone from asking, and I would consider it when it was brought, but like I said, I don't have interest because we were through that in detail on numerous meetings before.
And Madeline, presumably the separate parcel that is just the burial grounds would be tax exempt.
Yeah, so usually they're set up as like since it's a foundation, usually they're set up as like a private nonprofit.
So it doesn't really matter which community it's in for tax-based purposes. But the funeral home is basically a commercial business, right?
Yeah, that has to be owned separate, like by a separate entity.
And Mark, in our zoning, a funeral home would be like usually a permitted use in a B3 district, B2?
B2 or B3. I don't have that in front of me, but yes, it would be in a business classification.
But Kurt, you got a planned development district here.
Right, right.
Yeah, so
it's really two uses that we're being asked to approve, the funeral home and the cemetery. Those are two different uses of land, right?
Right.
And we're being asked to recommend whether we would recommend to the city council to change this GIP to amend the land uses just for this parcel.
Correct.
I would just say that I would be interested to hear what's going to be said in the public meeting before I would say anything, just because it is so close to those. That's why I asked about the houses. I was thinking two, but yes, I see the three before I would make a recommendation to Middleton. And to clarify, it's not in Westport, and that whole question that Ken brought up, that it was on our initial note, right? Something about being annexed back into Westport.
yeah, I believe in Terrence's letter, he mentioned something about, if that's something that should be considered, but it has already been talked about. You talked about it when this property was originally determined to be in the city for the for a school or a church or whatever. And then it was talked about again when it was dealt with at the church level. But
I thought so. I was surprised. That's
and
why.
yeah. And,
Okay.
but Terrence, he brought it up again just in case we want to talk about it, I suppose. And it's actually not DNX. I don't think you'd find that in Webster's. It's detach. Not even DNX is not even a legal term of art.
I think that's a rapper. DNX.
But yeah, and that's something else that I
That was
told
nice.
Taylor too, that whatever they do, they need to talk to those people, the residents there, to satisfy issues that they may have or concerns that may have, because there's probably buffers and plantings. And I suggested to Taylor all the way around, they might need to move these exterior roads and provide some kind of buffer all the way around this property. But that was just a suggestion too, from all the residents that are going to be there.
I guess just in thinking this through, and when I heard it the other night when we first got our agenda, that I was thinking about the building materials and quarry underneath, and I would be hopeful that whatever would be done there would not cause whoever is being naturally buried to be like, moved, crushed, whatever.
Right.
Because of what it may be underneath or next to or whatever, because if we're talking about a natural burial, it would seem like in the ground, not in excess building material. That would, maybe some people wouldn't care. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem like that would be agreed. I wouldn't put myself there.
Are those 3 homes on, they're not on town water, right? They're on
Nothing.
They're on wells.
Yeah, that's well and septic.
Madeline, is there an issue with those being on wells? Those homes so close to that cemetery, that natural cemetery?
No, so actually usually the wells are like 75 feet down and you bury someone about 6 feet down. So there's typically no issues from like burying someone next to a well because there's such a huge gap.
What's the density anticipated here? I mean, it's what, it's 20 acres, is that right? And then what if it were fully occupied, if you will, how many sites would there be?
Yeah, so it's 20 acres, the entire site, including that funeral home. And with the Green Burial Council, they restrict you to 500 burials per acre. So however many acres would be that green burial ground, it would have to be 500 burials per acre or less.
I see. It's a lot though. How does that compare to a regular cemetery? Is that, I suppose it's less dense.
Yeah, it's a little less dense. And I think also with the fact that you're not going to have these huge, like above ground concrete
Mausoleums.
structures, yeah, mausoleums and headstones. All the headstones are going to be flat to the ground, so it's not going to feel like you're packed in there, one headstone right next to another.
Okay, well, I guess at this point it's kind of as we would call it, a consultation. I guess because it's maybe not for me, I don't know that means that I'm not for it. It's probably something that can work, but I again have to give a lot of credit to what my residents think there. I'm kind of on the fence. I guess it could work out. I don't know that I'm thrilled with the use, but I'm not totally against it either. So that's how I feel about it.
And as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to make a decision tonight. If you wanted to hear the public hearing input, that's perfectly fine.
Well, I agree with Cindy. I think we should take what we hear at the public hearing and digest that and make our decision for our recommendation after that, if that's possible. That would be my
I'm-
choice.
I would be
Yeah.
very interested in hearing the public comments, and I'd also be interested in more study on the groundwater issue, because you may say that if you bury somebody 6 feet down, it's not going to affect the groundwater. However, when farmers spray things on fields, it ends up in people's wells, as we know. It's just the way it works because things go down. So I would be interested to see more information on that.
I agree. I'm not against this, the green burial. It seems like a really good practice. But I'm not sure that I would need more information from public hearing from the Westport folks who are already there, their input before I would make a recommendation. And you know, I trust that our Middleton plan commissioners and planners and council are gonna, you know, look at this carefully and make a good decision. But I certainly would welcome an opportunity to, you know, have an additional time to look at this after we get some public input.
And Mark or Madeline, if we could, to Cynthia's concern, at least just look up what the soil type is on the soils map, and the depth to the groundwater would be at least helpful to those concerns. I can't get mine to load, but I know it's on the DCI maps. But
Well, maybe it would be appropriate for the Middleton Plan Commission to ask for some kind of a groundwater study, and so that someone that has some more scientific knowledge of something like this than us commissioners could give us either some comfort or some concern, depending on how it comes out. I think Cindy's point's well taken. You know, we have nitrates in water in wells around here, and that's 75 feet, so it does find its way with fertilizer back down to the wells. So,
and that's not traditional ground either. That's already disturbed ground with
right.
fill in it.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of clay and sand to filter out much of anything.
Correct.
And we don't know what there is to be filtered out.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Mark, my only other question is just a very obscure zoning question. The art listed here and the statue listed here, do we have zoning that would apply to that in terms of height or design, or would we basically cover that at the SIP stage?
I would say we could handle that at the SIP stage.
Okay.
I'm looking at where you're seeing this.
Well, there's
Where
a
you-
statue over there by the veterans that's pretty close to the road, at least. Up, yeah. At least on the map, it shows a
Oh, that's
statue.
the statue. Okay, I had even seen that.
I don't even know how we think about that in terms of, I mean, you know, I'm sure it'll be tasteful and set back from the road, but
I would say this is part of a cemetery, so obviously there's different types of activities and uses in a cemetery that pertain to memorials.
Yeah.
So I would not see that as out of character with the cemetery.
okay, well, anyone else have any comments? Madeline, was there anything else that you would like to tell us? Because we're going to conclude tonight, I think on the note we have here, unless anyone has anything else to say or questions. I hear
No, this-
nothing.
Yeah, we've got some good notes. We'll take some good notes from this meeting and this will be helpful for the record.
Ken, it sounds
Good.
like the hope from the Westport members of the committee is to the Middleton members is that that Middleton has their public hearing and takes their comments, and then would at least provide the plan commission, would at least provide the joint zoning committee an opportunity to provide them comments that they could consider before they take their action. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that's what I already said, Tom.
Thank you.
No, thank you for summarizing that. That is correct. There being nothing else on this very interesting presentation tonight, we thank you, Madeline, for coming and the presentation. And for everyone, we can go ahead and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second to adjourn. All in favor of adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And we are adjourned for tonight. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Good to see everybody.